Very excited to talk to our next guest. He is the best shooter on the planet, Duncan Robinson, aka Duncan Strokinson, and he is now officially Leroy. I'm sorry to say he has passed you in the pantheon that is Michigan athletics. I'm sorry, two-time Rose Bowl MVP. Do you get the big mural when you go back to Michigan? What's the vibe been like with your alma mater after last year?
Definitely not a mural. I do feel the support, though. I mean, Michigan Nation is well equipped all across the country. Everywhere I go, I probably get more Go Blues than anything.
Random ones, right?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. So I'm super proud of the fact that I was able to be there and very fortunate to have had my experiences in Ann Arbor, but. The great thing about Michigan is there's just a storied tradition. There's so many guys in all sports that have gone on to do really special things. So, I'm humbled to be on that list in some capacity at least.
What was the first preseason game like? Because I gotta say, one of my favorite things last year was when you and Tyler would get going, how pumped that arena was. And so I know you guys have been used to not playing in front of fans, but being in your guys' house and there not being a reaction to you guys doing your thing, like when you're pulling up for that deep three against the Pelicans and you don't have the uproar and you can't play to the crowd, does it bum you out a little bit that now there's now you're in your home and there's nobody there?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like you mentioned, the bubble was made for having no fans. It had the short backdrops on the sidelines and behind the hoops, and they did a good job of having the virtual fans. So at least it felt like a fitting venue. I will say it was definitely an adjustment in that, when you're playing in that 18,000 person arena and there's maybe 200 people there, all things considered, between both teams and broadcast and all that, it's just a very, very different vibe. So definitely a little bit of an adjustment. We certainly miss playing in front of fans. We love playing in front of our fans. And like you said, it's a huge advantage for us, getting support and getting the people behind, the momentum. When we start to make some shots or get some stops and start to play well, it's great to have, our home faithful in our corner.
From the standpoint of last year, Duncan, one of the things I found interesting is, you guys had such an amazing year last year, but you, Tyler, Bam, Jimmy, not surprising, but you have all kind of come back with a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. Proud of what you did, but knowing that you guys went far and weren't able to come through, even understanding what you guys were going through in the finals physically, you guys all seem kind of pissed coming back this year that you were so close and you couldn't get it done.
Yeah, the chip on the shoulder is certainly something that, particularly this group, the group we had last year, the group this year, I think is all the same. Something that drives us. And, when you get to that point and you're on the doorstep of winning a championship and you don't get it done, it just adds to the chip. And I really wholeheartedly believe that for this group, the motivation is at an all-time high. I mean, I think that we have a very clear understanding of now what it's going to take. And, now we're not surprising anybody either. We just made a run deep into the playoffs, and this year comes with expectations, which is also challenging. But, really we're just concerned about the group that we do have and locking in and just improving. I think where we'll be at the end of the season will be totally different than what you'll see early on in the year. But that's not to say that early on in the year we're not going to get after it and compete and do all those things as well. But this group and this organization is really just all about growth and improvement.
Duncan, how tough is it with the quick turnaround? A lot of your teammates were banged up, and usually your off season's 3.5 months before you really get after it. Now you're usually on vacation, taking trips, this amount of time before you get back and get at it. How tough has this been for your body or just in general?
It's definitely been a challenge. You probably said it, and that the biggest challenge comes from just, you really want to go into a season feeling very physically prepared. So that's what much of the off season was spent for a lot of us. First of all, getting rest and recovery, and then starting to build back into improving our conditioning, improving our shape, and because we now know it's going to take even more. So the expectations as a group, we put them upon ourselves, and we want to live up to those. But it's a challenge, but everybody's going through it in some capacity. Guys may have had longer seasons, but there are some guys that teams that haven't played in 8 or 9 months.
Right.
And then also in the same breath, it's important to keep it all in perspective that, if as professional athletes, these are the quote unquote challenges that we're faced with, we're doing pretty well. So, try to keep it in perspective in that regard as well.
It's not like college, man. The most the season can last. Somebody can have a season that lasts 3 weeks longer.
Right.
Like you guys went 2 months longer than some, and the people that didn't even go to the bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't played basketball since March.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have their own challenges, and that we have certain advantages over them in terms of continuity. And, in many ways, like practices now, it feels like almost an extension of last season. It doesn't even really feel totally like a new season. Whereas some of these teams are looking at, like you said, 8-9 month layoffs where they haven't played in a real game in a really long time. So, there's give and take. There's definitely advantages experience wise that come from making a run like that, but there's also going to be downsides and like you mentioned, just the short turnaround. But we're certainly not making any excuses. We definitely feel like we'll be as ready as anybody come opening night.
Wanted to congratulate you because you made TMZ Sports today, and it wasn't for scandal. Like, you got on TMZ Sports for charity. That's an awesome job by you, Duncan. What was this effort that you put forth where you gave out a lot of meals to people?
Yeah, so I've done some stuff with Feeding South Florida in the past, and I know the Heat organization has as well. So it was a pre-existing relationship in that regard, and then kind of coupled it with a new partnership and relationship that I'm now building with Asha Noodles, which is a great company, a product that I'm personally a fan of for sure. And I was just excited that they were willing to get behind the philanthropic side of the partnership and give 10,000 meals to Feeding South Florida. And just being over there at their facility, their distribution facility, seeing how many meals in this giant warehouse that they have. And, it's full to the brim. And the woman had told me at the time that if we didn't get any new food in 5 days, this would all be gone. And I think that right there put really into perspective, first of all, just how much people in a time like this are relying on these types of organizations. And for me to do just a small thing in the grand scheme of things to kind of help in that regard, I'm hoping, will make a difference in some capacity. So a ton of credit to both those organizations, and that I was just kind of the middleman, and it had little to do with it, but it's more so them doing the heavy lifting.
That's an awesome job by you, man. That's awesome to hear. So I was reading Sports Illustrated. There was a piece on Jimmy Butler, and you had talked a little bit about that during the finals. He had a meeting with you. I remember you mentioned this a little bit during the postseason, but that was a really important thing for you. Like the kind of leader that he was, he helped you in the midst of the run, because it feels like I felt kind of bad for you, Duncan, in that, like, if you don't go 7 for 8, people are asking you what's wrong with you. If you give up a piddly 4 for 8. So those are the kinds of expectations people had on your shooting, and what kind of, like, are you mentally okay? So I guess how much did Jimmy help in that regard, where you just had to have confidence in what you were doing, or just kind of break away from the stakes of what was going on?
Oh, he made a huge difference. But it's obviously it's very much him in that he was, particularly in the playoffs, just the constant and was really the head of the snake for us. Was doing so much on both sides of the ball, and he really is our leader in so many different ways. We have a different leader. Bam is a huge leader for us. Obviously, UD is huge. Can't possibly even begin to explain how much he's meant. But just to have the confidence of really everybody, including the staff, including Coach Spo, for me to just continue to be aggressive and do my job. It allows you to play with a clear mind. And, the reality is it's you get on that stage, and, that's a stage that I've been dreaming about playing in my whole life. And I think, I've kind of mentioned this at times, but particularly those games 1 and 2, I was really disappointed in how I kind of approached the game. For me, it's not necessarily always about makes and misses, but more so if I'm doing the right things, if I'm being aggressive and coming off actions the right way and putting stress on the defense. And I really felt like in games 1 and 2, I didn't do that. So though, that's something I have to live with, something that, will probably eat at me for a while. But, just talking to Jimmy after game 2 and hearing the confidence that he still had in me. And it's like he knew it, it's crazy to hear him speak. It's like, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that like he knows something's going to happen and therefore it happens. But to have the support of him and encouraging me to continue to be aggressive and continue to hunt shots, it just allowed me to just focus on that. Like, let me just go out and just do my job, do what I've tried to do all year. And it just allows you to play free. And basketball is any sport really, but it's such an easier game when you're free in the mind.
That has to be fun though, to be a 3-point shooter and your teammates get mad at you because you don't shoot it enough. Like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate green light. It's something that's been hardwired into me, particularly since I've been a part of the Heat. So I feel very fortunate. Early on, it was like sometimes I would have a hard time wrapping my mind around it. Like,
right,
why I'm an undrafted guy. Like, why am I the one that they want to shoot every time? Like, but it's just I slowly over time developed this mentality that like this is what I have to be when I'm out on the floor for us to be our best.
That usually means you're more likely to make them than anybody else.
Yeah, even though I will say early on, you wouldn't have known that from the way I was shooting. I would make them in practice, but I had a tough stretch, particularly my first year. And even really parts of last year, like the preseason, I just felt like I couldn't make a shot. It's just like so frustrating because you're capable and it's not coming together. But that's why I just give a ton of credit to the coaching staff, my teammates, for just continuing to believe and push the issue that I need to shoot. I need to be aggressive.
Isn't that the nature of what you do, though? I mean, like, you might go 1 for 8 one night and then go 7 for 8 the other night. Still means you're a great 3-point shooter, but it's hard not to get frustrated when you go 1 for 8, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when the 1 for 8s like they did last preseason just keep stacking up.
Right.
You start to wonder like what's going on here? Is something wrong? Am I not good enough? Whatever. Like doubt starts to creep into your mind. So it's a challenge. I mean, the mental side of it, it's starting to get talked about more, but I still don't think it gets talked about enough. I mean, particularly when you get to this level, people are so talented, but everybody is. So much of the separator becomes, what's in between the ears.
From a football perspective, and when you hear about football and how everything has to be 100% and is probably the closest sport to 100%, I don't know how I would handle 40% of my job. I never, it's a baseball and basketball thing, but I always wondered mentally, how can you deal with being 40 to 45% effective at your job and that be considered great?
Yeah. A big shift for me last year, it really helped when I stopped worrying about makes and I started worrying about attempts. Coach Bo would get on me a lot about let's get you 10 attempts a game. I need you to shoot 10 threes. And he would always say, like, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried about the makes. Like, those are going to take care of themselves. So when you're able to think about it that way, if you get to your 10, then you're doing your job. And otherwise, it's like you said, it's not because, you miss 6 out of 10 and you're still a world-class shooter. Like, that's just how it goes. But so it very much involves and requires you to get over that mental hump of being able to push through quote unquote failure, missing a shot and being able to take the next one, with that same edge and that same confidence.
Duncan, before we get you out of here, man, we're big fans of the JJ Redick podcast, and we heard the original one where you're talking. Well, it was actually original because you've been on this a bunch as the correspondent, but we played the clip about you talking about getting the sleeve tattoo. We saw the Photoshop. When is this happening, man? Come on. When are you getting the full thing going? Because that is going to add, I think, another element to you. I'm in complete agreement with JJ Redick. I feel like that adds like the next evolution to Duncan Robinson.
I hate to do this to you guys, but I'm staying tight-lipped on this one. I'm keeping that one close to the vest. We'll see. I don't want to say stay tuned, but we'll see.
It feels that feels like as soon as I actually get a break from basketball, I'm coming back with like a Viking head on my arm.
You can't do it during basketball.
No, you can't do it.
Right.
No,
you're
you
right.
can't.
Well,
So it's pretty much. I mean, I'm not going out on a limb saying it probably won't happen during this season.
I'll also tell you one thing that is a guaranteed fact is that my right arm will not be having any tattoos.
Really? You won't risk it?
It's if it were to happen, it'd be a left arm thing only.
What is the better song? Because everybody's raving about Tyler Hero getting a Jack Harlow song, but play that donkey music is the better song about a basketball player. Yes,
that's still my favorite. There's a funny story of my first year because I think that song came out after Summer League.
Yeah, we put it together after Summer League.
Yeah, so my first year I was in Sioux Falls. And just randomly in the middle of practice, Briante Weber came across it. I don't know how before practice, and just started blasting it throughout the entire arena. And that's what we listened to the entire practice. And I am a huge fan of the song, but in those types of settings, I'm just not really comfortable, and it just felt uncomfortable in general. But I am a huge fan of the song. So thanks for putting that one together.
No problem, man. Congratulations on a great year last year. We're looking forward to seeing what
going.
this year is going.
Yes.
It's been really cool to see, man. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on.